Latina businesses are the fastest growing category of small businesses in the country. We meet the editor-in-chief of LatinaInBusiness.us, who is helping to link Latinas to succeed. And we welcome back the National Association of Hispanic Nurses, the Garden State chapter, as we discuss another important health disparity for Hispanics. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose quality, value, distinction. Choose Stockton.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas. Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. The number of Latina-owned firms has more than tripled in the past 15 years. Today, 4 in 10 minority women-owned businesses are owned by Latinas. Joining Latinas in that success is Susana Bauman. She is an award-winning journalist, author, multicultural expert, public speaker, small business advocate, and editor-in-chief of LatinasInBusiness.us. A lot of things that you're involved with, aren't there?
Yes, thank you so much for
Susana,
having me.
welcome to Latino Motion, and one of the most important things that you're obviously engaged in now is the LatinaInBusiness.us. Tell me a little bit about the emphasis for that magazine.
Well, we started this initiative 2 years ago. In a way, as my legacy, because I've been a business owner for over 20 years here in the United States.
So you have all that wealth of experience that you like to share with other Latinas.
Exactly, yes. Hoping that to make their path a little bit easier than the one I had, before, because it was tough out there when I started in 1996.
So we see there is a lot of data in terms of Latino-owned businesses. They're really leading the way in a lot of new business development. Tell me a little bit about the numbers.
Well, correct. As you said at the beginning, we have the fastest growing demographics opening businesses in the United States are Latinas. According to some Nielsen, the Latina Power Shift, Nielsen research, between 2002 and 2007, they had an increase of 172% of opening businesses. So 6 times the national average, which is pretty good.
That's
good.
Extremely good.
Yes, and there is an estimate that by now, by next year actually, it's going to be almost 1 million Latina business owners in the United States at the rate that they're growing. So 36% of women, minority, are Latinas and in business, and also they generate $65 billion in business.
So very significant numbers.
Very significant.
What's the driver? Obviously, Latinos are involved in a lot of economic development and growth as far as more small businesses are concerned, but it seems that Latinas are leading the way. Why is that so?
In our research, and we interview them, most of the time, because we try to promote small businesses for free, 5 employees or less. We promote them for free in our magazine. We found that there are different segments, different reasons why they go into business. You have the very, very small business. They come to the United States, they're immigrants, and they have a craft. Make empanadas, or they do hair. So they start their little business. That business goes into catering, and then it becomes a restaurant. That's more or less the progression that we found. Right. But also you have the other segment, the top segment, the corporate Latina that now is starting a side business and going off corporate, trying to find their own way, trying to become their own CEOs.
I read that article in your magazine, actually, and it's very interesting, the fact that Latinas who were striving to break the glass ceiling are now leaving corporate America to start their own business. That seems to be a trend.
Because it's an opportunity to really become who they are as a talented business person. And corporates sometimes don't see that opportunity. They don't give the opportunity to many, many Latinas.
So as a Latina that's been in business for over 20 years, what do you see are the biggest challenges for starting a small business for a Latina?
If you are bicultural or bilingual, the challenges are a little less. The problem is when you have language barriers and when you don't have a certain degree of acculturation, meaning you know how to move, in certain environments. And that's a big challenge for a lot of Latinas. And they tend to stay in their little cloister, the Spanish-speaking, little neighborhood, and not grow as they could. Because they have sometimes the opportunity to grow and do good business. So language and culture. The other big problem is access to capital.
That is the bottom line, isn't it? I see that a lot of businesses do count on their family, friends, and personal savings to start a business, but to expand, you really need access to capital.
Correct. And so many times they don't have access to traditional funds or traditional loans through banks. So they have to, like you said, go into family and friends, and sometimes, credit cards, which I always recommend not to do, but they do, and they have, some are successful and some not so much.
Now, your magazine provides all this kind of information. I know there's a lot of interesting articles, different topics, and all seem to relate to helping Latinas advance.
Right. Well, when we did our research to start the publication, we found out that 58% of Latinas do research online for finances and investment. Wow. Okay? 61% for education, finding schools or whatever, or for themselves, education for themselves. Also, 66% go into family health issues or topics, and 70% on personal wellness. So all these four topics we cover in our magazine, helping them not only, because many of them are in wellness in their businesses, many are in education, okay, and many are in also health.
We want to explore a little more in-depth on those topics. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We'll continue our discussion with small business advocate and editor-in-chief of LatinasInBusiness.us, Susana Bauman. Welcome back to Latino Motion.
Thank you.
We were talking about the statistics and how Latinas are more and more online and looking for information online. Right. And certainly you have a segmentation in terms of your target audience. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, we have three main target audiences in our publication. The first one is what we call the micro businesses, 5 employees or less, very small entrepreneurial venture, and they have a small business. Maybe sometimes is local or sometimes is online. The second is Latinas in mid and high executive levels who are trying to climb the corporate ladder. And the third one is professional, independent professional Latinas that also maybe work for a firm or have their own firm. And what we do is we tell their stories. That's what we like to do. We tell their stories.
I've read some of the stories. Interesting reading, but it seems to also provide a bit of an education for the reader, what some of the pitfalls or some of the good things that they should be looking to do.
Right. Well, when we say we tell their stories, is really what we do is personal branding.
Right.
We teach them how to do their personal branding, how to know themselves first, know their own unique story, and then be able to communicate. Because when you can communicate your own story with passion and enthusiasm, then you can talk to a banker, you can talk to a donor, you can talk to your boss for a raise, or excel at a job interview. So we want them to show that talent, and that's what we try to do.
So let's talk about that first segmentation. You talked about the women who, Latinas who may have a business that with 5 or less employees, that you provide free advertisement for them. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, what we do is we promote their businesses because usually that segment, they don't have a budget for advertising. And so we bring them to the publication, we tell their stories, we put pictures, videos, whatever they can provide, graphics, and we do a lot of social media exposure for them.
That's a great thing. So how did they sign up for that?
They just contact me, Susana, only one N, Susana, at latinasinbusiness.us.
And the second segmentation of those Latinas professionals who are kind of climbing the ladder looking to break that glass ceiling, what advice do you give them throughout the coverage you do in the magazine?
Well, you have to stand up and speak for yourself. That's what I always tell them. Stand up and speak for yourself. Nobody's going to, Latinas and women in general, Latinas in particular, we are told if you do a good job and someone is going to notice. Well, that doesn't work that way.
Now, you have an event that's coming up on November the 29th. That's target is the Latinas in business. Tell me about that event.
Well, we're having our Best Business Awards. They have to work hard to get their awards. It's not going to be, easy, but it's not impossible. It's a media networking event where they can pitch their business to some panel that we're going to have there. Univision, New Jersey Latino Bound, and Social Vibes, 3 panelists, and probably a 4th one, but I don't want to because it's not confirmed. And they're going to do their pitch, and the people are going to cheer for them, and the panels are going to decide who is the winner of the pitch.
So what's the award?
Well, recognition, maybe a little bit of a cash prize. There's going to be 2. We had that last year, 3 winners, and they got a recognition and a $100 award in cash prizes.
So this event is taking November the 29th. It's in West New York, Son Cubano restaurant.
Correct.
And that's from 6 to 9 p.m. Very, very interesting and a good way to engage Latinas who are already in business. But what advice would you give to the Latinas who are thinking to get into business? What would be the top 3 things they should be worried about?
Well, they should be worried about, first of all, write your business plan. You don't go on a trip without a map. Number 2, keep your accounting and your credit in good shape. And the third one, I think the most important thing is just work with enthusiasm and find that your passion in your business, and then you're going to be very successful.
That's probably good advice for anyone who wants to get into business.
Correct.
Thank you, Susana. And please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. Hispanics are almost twice as likely as non-Hispanic whites to be diagnosed with diabetes, and they are 40% more likely to die from diabetes as non-Hispanic whites. Joining me to discuss this vast disparity and what we can do about it is Natalia Elzabay. She is with the National Association of Hispanic Nurses, the Garden State chapter. Natalia, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you for having me.
Those are very staggering numbers in terms of the number of Latinos that do suffer from diabetes and the risk of death even at such a high rate. Tell me a little bit about what some of the other data shows in terms of the statistics that impact everyone as far as diabetes is concerned.
Well, the most recent statistics show that about 30 million Americans have diabetes. 12.8% of those 30 million are Hispanics, which is about the third largest population group in America that have diabetes. In New Jersey alone, we have about 1 million affected.
Oh, large number.
That is a large number.
And it's the seventh leading cause of death in the U.S., so that's a very significant data point, if you will.
It is. It's very large following cardiovascular disease. It's one of the highest, the top 10 leading causes of death.
Let's talk a little bit about what diabetes is, and just so that we have a good understanding. We know it's your sugar is not right, but let's talk a little bit about what it truly is.
So diabetes is when your insulin or your pancreas doesn't make enough insulin, or the insulin that you have in your body is resistant. So insulin acts as a key to unlock the door to your cells. So if you don't have that key to open the door to your cells, sugar cannot come into your cells. Oh. So basically your cells would starve unless you have the insulin letting in that sugar into your cells.
Now there's two types of diabetes. Tell me about the different types, type 1 and type 2.
Type 1 diabetes, often called juvenile diabetes, although that has changed in the last couple of years, is when your body's immune system destroys the pancreatic cells that make insulin. So you don't have any insulin in your body, which is why they're insulin dependent for their whole lives. Type 2 diabetes is when you have insulin resistant. Usually it comes later in life, although right now we're seeing it younger and younger. Kids within the last couple of years have had a lot more type 2 diabetes than type 1.
Let's talk about the risk factors, if you will, for diabetes and some of the symptoms. But let's start with the risk factors. What are some of the risk factors?
If you have a family history of diabetes, that is definitely a risk factor. Overweight or obesity can contribute as well. No physical activity or being of a certain race. We know that American Indians, Hispanics, and African Americans are more largely affected.
Just being Latino is a strike against you already for diabetes, and
yes.
obviously the family history
contributes
a big contributor.
Yes.
And we'll talk about some of the preventive measures to kind of alleviate some of these risk factors. Let's talk about what some of the signs and some of the symptoms might be.
Sure. Usually when you have some thirst, excessive thirst or excessive hunger, you have that excessive hunger and excessive thirst because your body feels like it doesn't have, like your cells are not getting that nutrition. Also excessive urination, as well as fatigue and weight loss and blurry vision are some of the signs and symptoms of diabetes.
So more importantly, once we see any of these risk factors, what should we do?
You should go to your healthcare provider, APN, or your primary physician. They usually do a test called the A1C. It tracks your sugar for the last 3 months, and it'll give you a set number. Once you have that percentage, they can pretty much tell whether or not your blood sugar has been high within the last 3 months or not.
Let's talk about the preventive measures. What are some of the preventive measures?
Stress management, exercise, and diet are definitely important.
So, you mentioned stress management, which I asked you off camera. Why stress management? What's so critical about that?
Well, when you're very stressed, your body releases a hormone called cortisol, and that in turn can increase your glucose levels or your sugar levels in your blood. So that can contribute to a high blood sugar.
And you mentioned exercise and healthy diet, obviously. So a lot of the Latino food is not necessarily conducive to healthy diet. So we may need to change some of that.
Right, lower the arroz on your plate, eat more salads, less carbohydrates, which in turn can turn into sugar in your body, and that's why it affects you.
So very important to take care of yourself, and certainly if you're a Latino, you're at risk. So
Yes,
let's
absolutely.
take the appropriate steps to avoid that. Thank you so much for sharing this information, and thank you for joining us at home once again here on Latino Motion.
Choose quality, value, distinction. Choose Stockton.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.